So look, if you want to grow your wealth, your income, and increase the amount of time off, then these are the shortcuts that can help. Welcome to the Wealth Creation Podcast. Welcome everybody to the Property Cashflow Show. My name's Daniel Latto. We're just going to give you an update on the property market. We've been off a couple of lives for a little bit and just kind of getting back into it. Since schools closed here in Spain, the transition to holiday time is always a difficult one. I struggle every year, never very good at it. But anyway, here we are, we're live. We're not at 12 o'clock, it's 3 p.m. here in Spain. It's 2 o'clock in the UK. We're only 2 hours late, it's not too bad. Anyway, let's give you an update on what's happening in the UK property market right now, because this is pretty interesting. Some interesting stuff going on, of course. So obviously, number one is we've got a stamp duty cut until I think February 2021. People have been asking me what are your thoughts on a stamp duty, and I think it's crazy, quite frankly. I don't understand why we've done a stamp duty cut, because what happened is everybody was in lockdown, no one could do any viewings, the property market stalled, and then lockdown lifted, and estate agents can now work, and letting agents can now do viewings, and so on. And the property market, woof, and it shot up like a rocket. And then the chancellor came out and said, "Oh, I've got a good idea. I know what we're going to do. Let's get rid of all our income from stamp duty. Let's just get rid of all that. We don't need it. And let's give a stamp duty holiday." It's just crazy. Remember a couple of years ago, money doesn't grow on trees. There's not a magic money tree. It turns out there is. And, you know, I mean, where there's a loss for the government in revenue right there's an opportunity for those people who want to do property sourcing. If you're sourcing deals right now, especially to overseas investors, because remember two things. Number one is that the UK property market is on sale right now because the pound and the dollar, or the pound versus anything, quite frankly, is dreadful right now. So the UK is at least 15 to 20% off simply because of the change in currency rates. Then, in addition to that, it's also discounted because of the stamp duty levels have disappeared up to £500,000. So what you could do is, for example, if you're buying 3 properties at 150 grand each, you can buy them all at the same time and there's zero stamp duty on that. Whereas before, those 3 properties would be classed as one whole transaction and you pay the stamp duty on 450 grand. So there's big opportunity there to go out and source deals. That's why we've got the property sourcing training down below. To go out and source deals and then sell them either to overseas investors, which is great right now because the UK is on a discount because of the currency exchanges, or to home-based, not home-based, but home-based investors who are looking to invest either in Leeds or Bradford or Sheffield or London or wherever I want to happen to be, up north, down south, to the east, to the west, doesn't matter. But there's a good opportunity there. If you can go out and find investors, there's a lot of investors right now who've got money. Don't get this idea of COVID-19, the world's going into recession, which it might be. Don't get beyond this idea that nobody's got any money, because that's not true either. People have got money and people have got an awful lot of money. So you shouldn't be worried about this idea that nobody has any money. The right people with the money still have the money. And in fact, some people's incomes have gone up. Mine's gone up. Just to put it into context here, mine has gone up due to COVID-19, and I feel like guilt that we're doing so well because of COVID-19. It's a bit of a mind mess. But that's just life. We can't do anything about it. We'll ride that wave for as long as we can. We are outsourcing more property deals right now because we know that with a stamp duty cut, it makes everything a lot cheaper for people to buy. So why not take advantage of that? You can sit there and moan about how bad everything is, and things can be quite bad, or you can take advantage of it and just get yourself moving. So stamp duty, I honestly don't see the point of it. Chancellor's just going to lose out on lots of potential cash there. For what reason? The property market was flying anyway. As ever with this Conservative government, there's nothing ever quite as clear cut. And what you see happen above the surface, there's always something else going on underneath the surface, isn't there? Dominic Cummings and Boris Johnson. There's always something else going on that they are weaving their dirty little fingers into. So just be aware of it and take advantage of it if you can, either by buying and not paying stamp duty, or by sourcing and selling to other people who don't have to buy stamp duty. The money that they save in stamp duty fees could be your sourcing fee. You could maybe increase your sourcing fees a little bit more there. Okay, what else we got then? So we got capital gains tax is being reviewed, another interesting one. And so this is going out. Today is the 15th of July, and it came out yesterday or today, I think. And people go, oh, capital gains tax is going to get changed. And capital gains tax is at 28%. So if you're a 40%, 45% taxpayer, you get a discount if you're at 28%, of course. And so they're saying it's a very cheap tax, and whether it is or isn't, who the heck knows? But it's going to get reviewed, and some people are going, oh, it's going to go up. Honestly, it might go down, it might go sideways. Who the hell knows what's going to happen? They might just do something completely different. Who knows? But this is the point, is that all taxes get reviewed at some point, and now it's just the turn of capital gains tax to be reviewed. That came directly from Chancellor's office. However, this is exactly the same to those consultations for licensing. We're going to do a consultation for licensing in your area, which is basically what we're saying is you're going to get consultation. You're going to get licensing. There is no consultation for licensing. We've got licensing coming. We're going to give you the perception that we're asking your opinion, that we value your opinion, but the honest truth is we couldn't care less what you think. Here is licensing. And it's the same with capital gains. Although the Chancellor might say, oh, well, there's nothing to worry about on capital gains. Like, do you believe him? Like, hello, never. Okay, last one on this one, very short one today, is a ban on no DSS. So now, if you don't accept DSS, you're no longer allowed to say no DSS on your adverts. It's classed as indirect discrimination. Okay, so just bear this in mind, that most landlords are men. Okay, there's a relevance to this. I don't know what the percentage is. 70% of men. Let's just say 70% of men. Most landlords are men. Okay, the person who runs Shelter is a very well-known feminist called Polly. I'm sure Polly will agree. She's highly feminist. She's a proud feminist, whatever you want to call her. So is this not indirect discrimination against men then? If 70% of property investors are men and you're attacking the private rental sector on a daily basis, is that not indirect discrimination? Is that not exactly what those no DSS adverts are doing, where they indirectly discriminate according to the law now, a county court judgment? It doesn't set a precedent because it's a CCJ, okay, bear that in mind. And obviously take legal advice if you've got any of this going on right now, because I'm not a lawyer. But it's not a precedent. It's a CCJ, so it doesn't go to all the courts. But this is exactly saying no DSS and saying all landlords are bad. It's exactly the same thing. It's all indirect discrimination. So it kind of bothers me a little bit. People go, well, you shouldn't be discriminating against people on DSS. And it's like, we've got 20 years experience of DSS. We know exactly what goes on when you enter DSS, and you can interpret that however you want to take it. But the ban is there. You're no longer allowed to say no DSS. Now, on our rentals, we don't discriminate against DSS either. In fact, we quite positively treat everybody exactly the same. And what I mean by that is I ask the tenants when they're qualifying them on the phone, usually via text, I say to them, have you got your first month's rent? And have you got your deposit lined up? And they'll go, I'm on universal credit. And I go, what does that mean? And they go, well, the council will give you a bond. If you've ever had a bond from the council, you know, I mean, how expensive that is, because they come in, well, your banister's 2 inches too low, mate. You need to raise it up. Like, it's too low according to whom exactly? How tall is the average person that it's suitable for? Just bizarre. But they come up with a government-backed bond, which we don't accept. We don't like the government. We just don't accept them at all, the government-backed bonds. We want the bond to come from the tenant, not to be backed from anybody else. They need to have skin in the game. That's number one. And number two is that we want them to have their first month's rent. And it's got to be paid like a professional or DSS. It's got to be paid up front. We want a bond and we want the first month's rent up front. And they'll say, well, no, it's in 8 weeks' time. It's in 12 weeks, it's always paid in arrears. And we say, well, no, we don't want to wait 12 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 4 weeks. Why should we? We rent to a professional person. We get the deposit and the rental straight away. If we are then allowing DSS people to pay in 12 weeks' time, well, that's us then discriminating against professional people. So no, it's just how it goes. This is how we rent properties out. We need your bond and your first month's rent. If you can do that, great, not a problem at all. You need to show evidence that your income is enough to cover the rent and that kind of thing. And if that's fine, then that's fine as well. If you happen to be on DSS, or local housing allowance is what it's actually called, and we use DSS just because that's the terminology that's kind of stuck. But if you're on LHA, we don't really have a problem with that, but you need to prove affordability, you need your deposit, and you need your rent, just like we would reference somebody who is a professional worker. And that's how we do it, and that's how we've always done it, and that's as we move forward, that's how we will do it. If you want to say that's discrimination in some kind of way because the person on DSS isn't getting special dispensation of some kind, special privilege because they're out of work, which might not be through fault of their own, could be through disability and that kind of thing, then there is no discrimination there. We treat everybody exactly the same. And that's what Shelter want. That is what Shelter will get. Anyway, I think that's it. If you guys got any questions, stick them in the box down below. Happy to talk about DSS or local housing allowance. I don't like the word DSS, and it has got negative connotations. And local housing allowance has nicer connotations rather than DSS, it has to be said. But in my experience of 20 years of dealing with DSS, unfortunately, we have had a higher probability that either rents don't get paid or damages to property, or both. And then the other thing that we have had a lot of experience of is the tenant moves out but doesn't tell us. The first that we know about it is the council are trying to claw back their rent. And I've argued with them and I said, do you know what, guys, take me to court. Let's go let the judge sort this out. The tenant has to inform us of any material changes to their tenancy as displayed in their tenancy agreement. If they don't do that, they're still liable. And the council go, well, no, that's not right. We've paid it on their behalf, so you need to go get the rent from them, and we're going to chase you. And I'm like, okay, then off you go. Go chase. Let's go do this. Let's go to court. We've not been to court once in 20 years. You come to me, fill in the forms. Let's go to court. You can pay all my costs for flying back over, plus my solicitor's costs, plus emotional distress and whatever else. Not once have they done it. And yes, you can get direct payment for local housing allowance. However, have you ever tried that? Like, you can't get direct payment for LHA. The only way you can really get it is two ways. Number one, the tenants have previous problems in maintaining their rental payments in the past, and you can demonstrate that. And number two, you have to wait until they are in 8 weeks in arrears or 2 months. I don't want to wait 2 months to find out after month 2 that they're no good with their money. So that used to be a reason why we wouldn't accept DSS. Now we accept DSS because we don't discriminate. But we want first month's rent and your deposit, and to be assured that your income is more than enough to pay for that rent. Very controversial stuff, but there you go. That's just the world in which we live. So, yeah, no comments coming in about that. It's quite controversial. Thought we'd have a few comments. But landlords are going, what do I do? And I'm like, well, you have to accept DSS. £9 billion, by the way, that's how much on an annual basis missed rental income and damages to property. And that's not all 9 billion from DSS, by the way. That's it. And I can't remember where I saw the figure. Paul Champlina from Landlord Action was asking me, where did I see that figure? And I think it was a Guardian article or something. But £9 billion, it works out at £2,500 a year per property, I think. So if you're wondering why rents have gone up, then damages and people who don't pay the rent. And of course, if DSS or LHA don't pay their rent, this is what happens. You evict them, Section 8, 2 months in arrears. You apply to get direct payment. You start getting direct payment, but you never catch up because they don't have the money to pay for 2 months in arrears, okay? So then you evict them. If you apply a Section 8, the tenant is deemed to have made themselves homeless, right? And so what that means is that the council then should not rehouse them. Guess what the council then does? So the tenant moves out, damages the place, the council puts them up in the next place. So the council don't even abide by their own rules. It's absolutely crazy. And yet they insist
that, and I just want to get this clear, by the way, you're just not allowed to say no DSS or discriminate against DSS just because they're on DSS. You can still reject tenants for whatever reason you want to reject them, but you also, if you reject them based on race, colour, sex, gender, etc., then clearly that is discrimination. You can't do it. And also, if you are discriminating just because they're DSS, then that is now legally, it's not a precedent because it's a CCJ, but legally it's been proved in court that is indirect discrimination. So you've got to play around that minefield if that's what you want to do. Like, we still have some DSS clients, and what we look for in a local housing authority client, DSS, is somebody who's going to stay there for an awful long time. We love those kind of clients, more than happy. I've got one client, and she's single mom, couple of kids. She's been a great client of mine for 10 years, I think 12 years. I was looking at a tenancy agreement. She's been in there for donkey's years. Absolutely amazing client. And that's not to say that DSS aren't amazing clients, because some of them can be. But finding the right ones, it's a lot of trial and error. But then once you get them, you want to look after them and keep them in there as long as you can. Send them pizza vouchers through the post, etc. And that reminds me of something I need to do. So you should be looking after your clients as much as you can, and having the longest term clients as much as possible, because the whole process of one client leaving and another client coming in, you might need new furniture, you might need new paint, but if you have the same client for 10 years, that just makes life so much easier. Keep on top of repairs. Obviously, all homes have to be habitable. I do not believe that housing is a human right, by the way. Just like food is not a human right, because if food was a human right, Tesco's would be giving it away for free, and they don't. And this kind of winds me up. People go on about landlords saying, oh, we should have a rent freeze. Well, how does a landlord get paid? Oh, we should get a proper job. Why don't you get a proper job? Then you wouldn't have been furloughed. Do you know what I mean? It's just, that's discrimination against landlords. But for some reason, that's totally fine. God, I'm on a rant today. So it kind of annoys me a little bit. But there is no such thing as a human right. Do you know what I mean? Look around the world and look how disastrous this world is. Look at homelessness in the UK, and then tell me that housing is a human right, or food is a human right, or just what's the word I was looking for? Having value from society is a human right. None of these things are human rights. I'm sorry to say, I wish it was. I wish we didn't live in this world. And when we go back to normal after COVID-19, I wish these things would be eradicated. But we don't. We live under a Tory government, and when we're not living under the Tories, we live under a Labour government. Neither of these governments are interested in helping anybody but line their own pockets. That is the way of the world. And so you've got to manage yourself and your ability and your business and your family. The best way to help people in poverty is not to be in poverty. That's number one. Number two, when you overcome that, then you can start helping other people. We raised £500 or £600 at Christmas for a guy whose kids were living in a house, no carpet, no toys. I mean, pretty horrific stuff, We raised some money. We bought some toys. We got him some food. We got him some carpet for his house. Carpeted the whole house, by the way, for less than 600 quid, including toys, including food. At that point, when you're no longer in poverty, then you can do things like that, and you can ask your fellow brethren to come and help you on your little mission, whatever that happens to be. And that's a wonderful thing to do. And as we move forward and our wealth increases, we're going to start doing more of that for people around Leeds specifically. I think it's very important. And there's no, it's crazy. We live in this world where we have all this money and all this access to resources, and we have homeless people. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And then the other thing as well, just to finish up on this, because I'm on a damn rant, local housing authority to under 25s doesn't exist anymore. At least it hasn't done for quite some time. I don't think it's changed. So what? If you're 21 and you get thrown out by your mum and dad, you don't get access to housing benefit? Like, how is that not discrimination against people under 25 by the government then? So if I'm 24, 364 days today, and 25 tomorrow, then tomorrow I'm entitled to a house, but today I'm not. Because that's not discrimination either. Pick and choose what discrimination is and what discrimination isn't, shall we? We live in a crazy, crazy world, folks. You've got to, again, this is why you've got to look after yourself. You've got to make sure that you are working as hard as you can. You're bringing in the income. And when you start doing that, at that point, you can start working out as a strategy, how can you then start helping other people? We've handed out backpacks. We've asked people for money to go for sleeping bags and food and polo mints and hats and gloves and scarves. Not scarves, by the way, the risk of self-harm, but gloves and hats in winter. And we've literally handed out backpacks and so on. Not the most efficient use of our time. And so what other options are there? It's crazy. There are so few options. You can have St. George's Crypt, which is in Leeds, and they can house, I don't know what the numbers are, 20 people a night? 20 people. There's more than 20 people homeless in Leeds, for goodness sake. When we went back at Christmas last year, everywhere you went there was homeless people, every single place. But it's just bizarre. Anyway, good little Dan rant there. Not done one of them for quite some time. And no one's talking, so that's fine. Everyone's just like, oh my gosh, he's off on one. Right, we are live again on Friday. I think we're probably live tomorrow in a business showcase where we're going to talk to one business owner, 12 noon, I think it is. We'll talk to one business owner and we'll talk about their business and talk about where they came from, what we're doing, how we can improve it, that kind of thing. If you want to join us for that, come and sign up in my Facebook group. Other than that, we'll speak to you on Thursday or Friday, or listen to a podcast, or you can rewatch this on YouTube. Right, we'll speak to you soon. My name's Dan Latto. Have a good day. Take care.
Hey, it's Dan here. Thank you for listening. Really appreciate each and every one of you. Please click like or subscribe to the entire podcast.